Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Raymond Yeung.
And I'm Joyce Woo. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Hong Kong University student magazine hits back at CY Leung, calling for a thorough revolution against communism.
Supply of private housing hits 8-year high with 15,700 flats completed last year.
Justice Minister gives strong assurance he's handling Donald Tsang's case without special treatment. Hong Kong University students have used the latest issue of their undergrad magazine to hit back at Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying for attacking them in his policy address.
The publication warns that Hong Kong is facing extermination and calls for a thorough revolution against communism.
The showdown sets the stage for another pro-democracy mass rally on Sunday.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying angered Hong Kong University Student Union by using his policy address earlier this month to accuse them of publishing fallacies to spread ideas about independence for Hong Kong. The students are now hitting back with the latest issue of their undergrad magazine published today, comparing his decision to name and shame them with the tactics used by China's Mao Zedong during the Cultural Revolution. It also slammed the chief executive for provoking young people instead of mending fences and understanding their grievances highlighted during last year's protests. The magazine went further to declare that Hong Kong is facing extermination as the one country, two systems policy has become incurable. It called for a thorough revolution against communism to avoid the risk of becoming slaves. The government issued a response, stressing the chief executive's responsibility to uphold China's national unity and territorial integrity. Young protesters are looking to air their grievances again by joining a pro-democracy rally planned for Sunday. The Civil Human Rights Front is expecting 50,000 to turn up for the march from Victoria Park to Chater Garden. But the organizers are still trying to fulfill a condition imposed by police that 100 marshals should be present during the rally to maintain order. Police did not confirm if the front will be prosecuted for failing to meet the requirement.
In case they do not have sufficient marshals, it depends on the circumstances. For example, how many they're shutting off, what are their responsibility of those marshals supposed to be, and we'll liaise with the organizers, see how those problems can be mediated.
The chief executive was far away from all the fuss today, meeting Guangdong Party chief Hu Chunhua for trade talks.
The supply of private housing has hit an 8-year high, according to the latest government figures.
The number of completed flats rose to 15,700 last year, an increase of 89% over 2013. ATV's Ann Chang reports.
The private property sector is showing an encouraging trend, according to the latest figures released by the Transport and Housing Bureau today. The number of private flats under construction rose 23%, from 14,100 units in 2013 to 17,300 last year, the highest since 2012 and second highest in the past 10 years. Some 3,400 flats were started in the last quarter, 100 fewer than the number for the same period in 2013, but it was still more than double the amount in the third quarter. More significantly, the number of completed flats rose 89%, from 8,300 in 2013 to 15,700 last year, the highest since 2006. The fourth quarter showed a significant drop, with 3,500 units built, 25% down from 4,700 in the third quarter. There are still 6,000 completed units left unsold, which will be factored in the government's estimation that the supply of private homes for the next 3 to 4 years will rise to 74,000. Financial Services Secretary Chan Ka-keung said government efforts to increase supply are bearing fruit. While market watchers see an easing of the housing shortage, property prices are still soaring and out of reach for most Hong Kong residents. A public housing flat measuring 147 square feet in Fanling's Wah-ming estate was sold recently for a record $1.7 million. That's more than $11,000 per square foot. Wong Kun of the Federation of Public Housing Estates said he found it incomprehensible. When asked whether the government would introduce more measures to curb speculation and ease surging prices, especially for small flats, Chan would only say the situation is being monitored, but he warned home buyers to consider the risks. Ann Chang, ATV News.
Justice Minister Yeung has defended the amount of time it's taking the government to decide whether to prosecute former Chief Executive Donald Tsang for improper conduct in office.
Yeung is insisting it's a genuinely complicated case, and there's no question of the government deliberately sitting on it to protect Tsang. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
Director of Public Prosecutions Keith Yeung told lawmakers on Monday that the ICAC had completed its investigation into former Chief Executive Donald Tsang, and the Justice Department was studying the report. There's been widespread concern about why it's taking so long to decide whether Tsang should be prosecuted for improper conduct in office. The anti-graft agency began investigating him 3 years ago, acting on complaints that Tsang had accepted favors from his tycoon friends and spent taxpayers' money lavishly during his trips overseas as chief executive. But Justice Secretary Yeung told ATV's Newsline there's no question of deliberately delaying the case because of how sensitive it is. He insisted the government is handling it sincerely and fairly, but it's genuinely taking time.
You cannot simply judge the complexity of the case by reading what you can see from the public media. In fact, it would not be fair to the colleagues of the ICAC. You do not know the tasks that they face and the challenges that they have to tackle. So it would not be fair to jump to the conclusion of whether there is or there is no delay.
But the Justice Minister refused to reveal exactly when his office received the ICAC's investigation report, which would indicate whether the government has really been sitting on it.
I mean, I can understand people who are not involved would say, well, how come it takes, say, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? But if you are involved in the process, and if you are tasked to go through all those documents, perhaps you will say, can I have more time?
Yeung cited the corruption trial of former Chief Secretary Raphael Hui, a friend of Donald Tsang's, as proof that complicated cases take time, but justice is served in the end. You can watch the full Newsline interview on Sunday night at 8 here on ATV World. Winner Wong, ATV News.
A Sha-Tin magistrate has refused to give ATV more time to respond to 76 summonses against the company and its executive director for failing to pay staff wages on time.
Company representatives attending the first hearing on the case today were told to be ready to face the music on the 13th. Here's Winner Wong.
ATV Executive Director Ip Ka-po was mobbed by the media as he arrived at the Sha-Tin Magistracy this morning. Supporters and critics of the station made their voices heard as well. Ip was in court today to answer 34 summonses initiated by the Labor Department against himself and ATV, represented by News Chief Lau Lan-chung, for failing to pay staff salaries on time in July and September. ATV's lawyers asked for the case to be delayed until the 27th of February, citing the need for more time to study the case. Labor Department representatives did not oppose the application, adding that they wanted the case to be combined with 42 more summonses they mailed to ATV this week over its late payment of November wages. However, Principal Magistrate Andrew Ma questioned why ATV needs up to 4 weeks to review such simple procedures. He also said it was a waste of time for prosecutors to mail the summonses and ordered them to be served to Ip and Lau in person right away. Ma insisted the case could not be delayed in the interest of justice and decided the combined 76 summonses will be heard together on the 13th. According to the employment ordinance, employers face up to 3 years in jail and a $350,000 fine for late pay offenses. Winner Wong, ATV News.
Overseas, there was real-life drama at a TV station in the Netherlands when a young man brandishing a fake gun burst into the building and demanded airtime.
But he was overpowered and arrested as officials calmed fears by confirming that he had been acting on his own. There was a scare for